Duplicity Final. 6 months later. If you are truly meant to be together, life will find a way to make it happen. It brings people together no matter how far apart they are. Paulisa stood in front of the mirror trembling with anxiety, dressed in a beautiful white custom-made wedding dress. She had decided to wear white because it was the first time she was getting married inside a church. Paulisa had waited on this day her entire life, and now that it was here she couldn't be happier. "Wow, Mummy," Jada exclaimed. "You look beautiful." "Thank you, baby. You have been a great support system. I am grateful." "Don't mention it," she shrugged. "The cars are ready, we need to get going." "Where is your brother?" she asks. "He is downstairs waiting for us." "Have you talked to your father?" "I did. I am sure he is already at the church waiting for you." "I am nervous," she laughed. "What if your father changes his mind about getting married?" Jada laughed. "Daddy P loves you. I am sure he can't wait to make you his wife." They walked out of the house and got into the car which drove them to church. Penjani nervously stood in front of the altar waiting for his bride to walk in. He was more than excited to give Paulisa a wedding of her dreams. She deserved it for being a great support system. Paulisa was escorted down the aisle by Jaden, and when Penjani saw her, his heart stopped for a bit. Everything he had ever wanted in a woman burst out of her, leaving him speechless. When she got to the altar, she held hands with Penjani and the pastor commenced with the ceremony. The pastor preached for about 30 minutes, though Pales didn't pay attention to what he was saying. She was anxiously waiting for him to pronounce them as husband and wife. "Penjani, do you take Paulisa to be your lawfully wedded wife, to live together in the holiest state of matrimony? Will you love, honor and comfort her and keep her in sickness and in health? And forsaking all others keep only till death do you part?" "Yes," he responded. Then he turned to me. "Paulisa, do you take Penjani to be your lawfully wedded husband, to live together in the holiest state of matrimony? Will you love, honor and comfort him and keep him in sickness and in health? And forsaking all others keep only till death do you part?" Paulisa stared at Penjani and smiled before she said an audible, "Yes." "Penjani, repeat after me," the pastor said. After that they said their vows and Jada handed them the rings. "With this ring, I thee wed, and with all my worldly goods, I thee endowed," Penjani said, sliding the ring onto Paulisa's finger. Paulisa did the same. Then the pastor said, "I pronounce you man and wife, you may kiss the bride." Penjani leaned forward and kissed his wife. After that one passionate kiss, he pulled away and smiled at her. "I think it's about time we walked out of here, Mrs. Sandashi," he said. Her face beamed with excitement. "I love the sound of that, Mr. Sandashi." Penjani and Paulisa walked out of the church hand in hand. They stood outside the church and took some photos with some friends and family before leaving. Later that evening, they had their wedding reception. It was beautiful and everything that Paulisa had ever wished for. God had indeed given her a second chance at love, and she was grateful. After the reception, they were off to the airport to board a plane for Santa Barbara, California, to enjoy their honeymoon at one of the most beautiful places in the world. They would be staying at Hotel Californian. "I still can't believe you are my husband," Paulisa said a week later. They were having champagne and relaxing that evening in their suite. "Wife of mine, you need to get used as," he responded. She smiled. "I love you." "I love you too," he replied, and he kissed her. End. Epilogue. 6 years later. Owen was depressed. He spent most of his time asleep. Nothing excited him in the world anymore. He had nothing to live for. His mother was still rotting in jail, and Elisa had left him 5 years ago. She was now happily married to another man. What hurt him even more was that his son was being raised by another man. Elisa had full custody of the child, and Owen only got to see him once in a while. Looking back, Owen regretted treating Elisa badly. She was a good woman who had accepted him for who he was, and she had endured the most violent of storms to be by his side, but he was foolish enough to let her go. But if he could go back in time, he would do so many things differently. Meanwhile, Moses was currently working at a shebeen and squatting at his friend's house in a shanty compound. A few years back, his house had been seized by the bank for failing to pay back the loan he got. Moses had nothing left to his name, he had nowhere to go or turn to. The twins wanted nothing to do with him, and Owen had refused to help him with some money. "Daddy, I can't find my blue sneakers," Jaden's 3-year-old yelled. "Just wear the other ones, we will be leaving soon," he responded. "Fine," he whined. "I thought he was going to throw a fit about his sneakers," his wife laughed. "You know you need to buy him another pair of those sneakers before he finds out that you burnt one of them," he said, giving his wife a serious look. "You spoil this boy too much. He is my only son, what do you expect?" "Whatever, I can't wait to have a daughter so we can gang up on you." "What if you have another boy?" She rolled her eyes at him. "Don't start with that, babe." "Fine," he raised his hands in surrender. They finished getting dressed and walked out of the room hand in hand. Jaden had married his wife Naomi 4 years ago, they had a son together, Ariel, and were expecting another child. "Ariel, time to go," Naomi called out, and her son came out of his room. They walked out of their house and got into the car. Jaden drove out immediately. They were heading to his parents' house for lunch. As soon as they pulled up in front of the house, Ariel stepped out of the car and ran for the front door. He rushed into the house shouting, "Grandma Les, Grandma Les." "I am in the kitchen," Paulisa answered. Ariel rushed into the kitchen and Paulisa scooped him in her hands. "Hey sweetheart," she said. "Hey Grandma," he giggled. "I missed you." "I missed you too," she kissed his forehead. "You can set the table now," Paulisa told her maid before she went to the living room with Ariel in her hands. "Our friends with grandparents," Jaden said. "Are you jealous?" Paulisa hacks. "No mummy," he said. "How are you even?" "I am fine, and you?" "I am great." Paulisa turned and looked at Naomi. "And how is my favorite daughter-in-law doing?" "I am fine, Mum, and you?" "Amazing as always." "Where is Daddy?" Jaden hacks. "Getting dressed, he will join us shortly." "Sure." They all sat down and the maid brought them some drinks. Penjani joined them a couple of minutes later. When Ariel saw him, he jumped out of Paulisa's hands and ran towards his grandfather. "You are too energetic, my boy," he joked, and they all laughed. "Hello. Anybody home?" Jada screamed as she walked towards the living room with her fiancé Abel. The two are set to get married in 6 months' time. Dr. Sandashi, Penjani proudly welcomes her. "Hey Daddy." "Princess, how are you?" "Great," she said. "Mummy, how are you?" "I am fine, baby." "I know Jaden is fine. Naomi, how are you?" "I am good, sis." "Abel, please sit down and feel at home," Paulisa said before she poured him a drink. "And how is my favorite nephew doing?" "I am fine. What did you bring for me?" Ariel hacks. "Come and check in my bag, I have a present for you." Ariel rushed towards her, then he opened her bag and pulled out a toy plane. "Wow," he exclaimed. "This is so cool, Mummy Jada." "Thank you, baby. You are such an amazing woman," he said, and everyone laughed. "I love you, boy." "Love you too," he said, and off he went to play outside with his new toy. "I am really happy to have everyone around for lunch," Paulisa said. "Shall we drink a toast?" Penjani said. "Yes please," they all said. "To family and happiness," Paulisa said. "Cheers." Together they clinked their glasses and each took a taste of their wine. Ella B.